And hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pumpkin Copter Cast, the only video game show. So today I am joined by Bill and Amanda Gardner of the Deep End Games to talk about their latest game, Romancelvania.
Hey.
Hi.
So yeah, back when it was still the talk of the town at Boston Festival of Indie Games, I remember buying and playing through Perception on the Switch and probably giving myself future heart troubles because of it.
Well, thank you.
And you're welcome. And I know this is quite a different. This is as drastic a different a tone as you can be. So
Yes.
Yeah,
like
we started the company. I think that was, one of the goals is we wanted to really shake things up, push things around, and really follow. It's really about the kind of feeling we want to evoke, the kind of mood we want to set, and that means whatever genre. So we're obviously very enamored with the spooky space, the horror space, first person games, all that stuff. But this is something I've always wanted to do, and I think if you have something to say about the space or genre or whatever it is, and you got the confidence to do it, you just go ahead. You got to kind of have to follow your heart, right?
I think
Yep.
I think that our love for this game is going to show, and I think a lot of our fans of Perception are super on board for this, and I think it's because we're showing how excited we are. I think that matters.
Yeah. That's. I mean, they always say write what you know and that sort of thing, and write what you love, and that's exactly it. Because if you're going to spend 2 or 3 years of your life working on something, you sure as hell better be enthusiastic about it, right? Better be passionate about it. And this is, you got to start off there. You got to start off from something that's like, oh my god, I love this genre, I love these ideas, I love this world. Otherwise, it's not going to come across in the game.
Yeah.
okay. So if like if the zombie apocalypse wasn't actively trying to happen right now at this particular point in time, and
Sure.
conventions like Boston Fig Fest and PAX were able to happen, and someone walked by your booth and they saw Romancelvania, what would be the pitch you'd give them to hook them in?
I mean, in a couple words, it's The Bachelor, only starring Dracula meets Castlevania. It's The Bachelor meets Castlevania is pretty much how I pitch it, because it gives the story in addition to gives you a sense of what you can expect, and I think that paints an interesting mental picture, and I think it makes people curious. I don't know, Bill. Do you say something different or?
No, I think that's spot on. It's funny because it's. I talk about the passion to work on a specific idea and something that's very different. You look at my entire history; it's a lot of very, very different projects. I think that one of the traps I always fall into is I create games that are pretty tough to sell, pretty tough to pitch, I should say.
Yeah.
And our games are not conducive to elevator pitches. I think Perception was perhaps the most. A spooky game in a haunted house where you're playing as a blind woman. Even that,
there's a lot of mental steps. Like, it's not high concept like battle royale, but squirrels. That's way more high concept.
Yeah. And
P.S. I did not tip our hat towards our next game, by the way.
Yeah. So, in some ways, I like things complicated. I like things because I have too many interests. I have too many ideas that I want to get in, too many themes, too many moods, and so we do these mashups. And I couldn't pick a lane. I could never say, "Oh, we're going to do a historical simulation or something like that."
Unless it was a short development.
That's true.
Development's really long, and that's something that Bill and I talk about. Like, if we're going to be working on a game, it's going to take a couple of years, and you have to be really into it and keep that excitement.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's a long engagement. Is all.
Yeah, and that's tough because I don't know that I could work. I love the idea of working on shorter games. I'd love to do something that's like 3 or 6 month cycles or whatever. That sounds wild to me. I don't know that I could ever do that because I think I'd start to inject too many ideas, and the 3 or 6 months would turn
and there's
into,
a quality threshold, and I feel like unless you're crunching those 3 to 6 months, it's not going to be to the standard we're comfortable with.
Yeah, I agree. Yes.
Okay. So I'm just going over the article that was made for your reveal on The Escapist right now, and
Nice.
just from like the few screenshot, just just I'm looking at the Scarecrow right now, and I'm like, just this looks like a game to make monster enthusiasts very thirsty. So
that is the endorsement I'm looking for right there. That's the
seriously, in a tweet that encapsulates everything. Yeah, we actually jokingly call it a thirsty platformer. We also think the thirst thing is inherently funny because vampires drink blood, so it's kind of like haha on several levels. But yeah, we've got so many sexy characters, including Drac. I mean, our main character is whoa.
Yeah.
And yeah, we are trying to bring the thirst factor for sure.
Okay. So like, what sort of like source materials did you use? Because I'm assuming like each of the monsters is going to be a particularly different flavor of hot throughout the game.
No, I think that we yes. So I'm stoked to show the entire cast, and we have the idea that we can continue to add to the cast if things go well. We have stretch goals and that sort of thing, but yeah, I'm really proud of how diverse our cast is.
Very,
really,
yeah.
In every respect, really, and I think that was important for us because if you're creating a game about falling in love, I think it's important to try and represent as much as you can. And I think it's because listen, when it comes down to it, we're all about empowering the player, and we're all about giving the player options and choices. And it would be a real shame if the characters all came off looking the same types of monsters, same types of personalities, same types of preferences. And so we really made sure that we're trying to cover a very, very diverse cast.
We also brought in archetypes not only from monsters, but we imbued our monsters with archetypes from reality TV shows. Yeah. So we have one character that's very Survivor. We've got another character that's very Jersey Shore. We've got another one that's kind of Kardashian. So we sort of have done lots of fun combining, and we think that'll resonate. We think people will get the joke.
Yeah, hopefully. But I think it also, enriches the characters, right?
Absolutely. It makes them more three-dimensional.
Yeah, and having different perspectives, different characters to bounce off of each other, to sort of play off each other. I think that makes it all the richer as well.
Mm-hmm. So, just again, looking at the Escapist headline, and that Romancelvania, in addition to being a Dracula reality TV show, is also a Metroidvania. And when most people think of Metroidvanias, they think of, one of the most iconic ones, also starring a sexy vampire, which is Symphony of the Night. So, just how much, what particular flavor of like Metroidvania is Romancelvania going? Do you intend to make Romancelvania?
That's a great question, and I think that we are drawing from a whole laundry list of inspirations and that sort of thing. But Symphony of the Night is I think definitely the most I would say prevalent when you see it, when you look at the way the game plays, you look at the systems. I think it's probably the closest parallel is that. But I think from a gameplay perspective, we're obviously drawing a lot of inspiration from I think the more modern counterparts of like Hollow Knight and Dead Cells, and we're trying to take all the best of what we know we love from the from the classics, the Super Metroids and the Symphony of the Nights and that sort of thing. And you bring in a lot of modern sensibilities. Like I loved Bloodstained. I thought it was fantastic, but I do feel like a lot of the lot of the age was showing. It's funny. I go back and I play Symphony, and it's impeccable. Like I think
it's perfect. We play it every year. It's perfect every time.
Yeah.
I played it first in college, and I nearly failed that semester because I was just so into it. I played it all the time. That and Diablo. Yeah. Diablo 2. Yeah.
And so I feel like where Bloodstained is they did such a great job capturing a lot of the essence. But I think that I always applaud when games reach. I feel like it definitely fell in a few spots where it was reaching. I think a lot of the systems were probably a little bit too bogged down. Like all the cooking and stuff like that. There were just so many recipes and so many components, and it's just like it got to the point where I would just tune it out. I'm sure a lot of people play it and they're like, "Oh, this is so cool! It's so much depth," and I'm sure there's so many things that I missed. But so Castlevania Symphony of the Night is a big one. Super Metroid. I think if you look at, we have a lot of random inspirations. Like we have a massage mini game, and that's
yeah. I saw the screenshot for that.
Nice.
It's hard to miss.
Yeah, and so that's inspired by lockpicking mini games. If you look at Skyrim, you're trying to find you're trying to find the tumbler and using the pins to find exactly where the tension is, and it's like it translates so well that concept to massage. You're finding the tension, and you're massaging it away. It's exactly what you do in these mini games, and so we have all kinds of little items that you can use during those mini games. But I think the purpose of it is to unlock to unlock conversations and opportunities and that sort of thing with the different characters. So if you come back to the castle at one point after questing, and one of the characters is mad at you for something, maybe you've been favoring another character, maybe you come home and Alessa is jealous because you're spending too much time with Medusa. And so you go to her, and she's locked in a room, and then you're able to, as a conversation, offer her a massage and win over some of her trust and get her to loosen up and realize that you're worthy of her attention. And so doing all kinds of fun stuff like that, it's really interesting to take familiar mechanics and it's the old saying, the same but different, right? You find ways to make something that you love exciting again.
Okay, and I know I don't know. I just, as someone who has no knowledge of the actual meat and potatoes of making a game. I know just life happens sometimes, but do you have even the vaguest window of just when you think when is a reasonable time you think the game will be able to be released without just collapsing?
Sure. So we've been at this for about, it's tough to say because we had talked about it for a while, and then finally we got the confidence to be like, we need to do this. So we've been working on it for over a year now. I don't know exactly how long, and I think that we're targeting sometime next year, late next year, but it's got to be amazing. And so good chance late next year, but also might push into 2022. I think it all depends. Honestly, the biggest factor for us is about how we do in our Kickstarter, because we've built up over, really going back to Perception, we've built up a huge stable of folks that we work with, folks that we've collaborated with. If we need an animation here, or if we need concept art there, or so we have all these people who can ramp up, pretty much almost immediately. And so I'm a firm believer in the whole philosophy, the business philosophy. I'm not going to butcher this, but the whole you can't make a baby in 3 months with if you have 3 people or whatever. It's you need, right, yeah. And so there's only so many people you can put on something, and more people are not always the solutions, but we have so many talented people.
Yeah, it's so awesome. And also just working on this game with these people is a hoot. Every single day we have hilarious things happening just in our talks about concepts and powers, and honestly, we as a staff laugh every day.
Yeah. So we're having a blast, and we need it to be super special. This is something we're incredibly passionate about. We have a lot to say. We have a lot to show. Built a ton already. And I think it's just really about, if the Kickstarter goes according to plan, we'll be able to really ramp up and just absolutely knock it out of the park.
Okay. And uh and so like I see some, I'm looking at a screenshot of like some of the dialogue and another screenshot of, you know, Drac fighting like
Sure.
two horrible mouth monsters.
Those are the screaming jellyfish.
I like two horrible mouth.
Actually, yeah. Hold on. I'm gonna steal that though. That's better.
Yeah.
So, just what is going to be like the ratio between like dating sim stuff and like Metroidvania, just exploring locations and like beating the crap out of monsters?
So we're actually really excited about this balance, and I'll tell you why. So if you played the game in just sort of a standard way that we sort of expect, we're expecting about 80% Metroidvania action, 20% romance. However, the Deep End is all about giving people choices. So we have this hub world, which is the mansion, very much like the campfire sort of in the Dragon Age series. You can spend as much time in the mansion talking to people as you want. So if you're really here for the romance, you could spend hours inside the mansion just talking to people, moving your relationship along, watching the reality TV drama that goes down. But if you're more here for the Metroidvania side, you pop in the mansion, you get your quests, you do what you got to do, and you get back out. So it's very customizable. But if I'm picturing the standard performance, I'm seeing 80-20.
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah, it's all about options.
Yeah,
I like that. Yep.
Okay, so do either of you have like, excluding Drac because he's the main character, and without giving like too much away, do either of you have a favorite, monster or like
Sure.
dating sim archetype that you're looking forward to everyone being able to get their hands on when the game is released?
I know it's probably a bit of a cliche, but I think a lot of us change on a regular basis. I think I think with a lot of the people in the I think Robert is super popular right now.
He's so
right?
hot. So Robert is our he's called the Dead Pirate Robert, which is a nod to the Princess Brides, the Dread Pirate Roberts. But he is a sexy pirate, but he's a zombie, and his booty that he plunders is actual body parts. So he goes around and scavenges like the hottest biceps, like the sexiest calves. And he's a literal bodybuilder, but he's also an absolute smoke show. So a lot of time we haven't shown Robert yet. I think that we're gonna have to do that this week.
Yeah.
He's really hot, but his concept is hilarious.
Yeah. So he's awesome, and I have to say he's up there for me as well. But I'm kind of a sucker for Medusa. Which I think
you
I
like Medusa.
I do. So she's this this sort of almost like the toxic raver girls,
like industrial goth.
Industrial goth, yeah, that's a better way of saying it. Yeah, a heavy emphasis on neon and like dreads and like super cool, almost like steampunk.
Yeah, almost like dystopian.
Yeah. So it's a super cool look, and I was always inspired by that. And like Medusa is so classic. We wanted to find a way to bring her a fresh take. And we thought really long and hard about what makes Medusa work. And you think about her history, and if she were to exist in the game, she would have had to survive 1,000+ years after the fall of her civilization. And you think about what that would do. So we're like the idea of, okay, well, she lived out the apocalypse, and what would that do to a person? And she's like, okay, well, she became very nihilist and carefree and just like, whatever, let's just fucking have a blast. Excuse my language. Let's just have a blast. And so she's a bit Harley Quinn in this way.
Yeah.
But I just like how spunky and over the top and just like fun, pure fun.
And kind of insane.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, again, it depends when you ask us. I think Robert on the team is a consistent one. Soul's pretty. We haven't even talked about Soul yet. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I was actually going to say we have a bad boy rival, and I think everybody loves that tension you get when you have sort of a frenemy. The enemies to lovers trope is a big one. So I definitely like that. But my favorite character is Vess. And Vess is a genie, and she's a genie bartender, and she did not want to be on the show. But when Grimm, who's the producer of the show, offered her a break from granting wishes to do the show, she was like, I'm in. So it's actually really interesting to see her arc, because she was not here for the romance, but, you know, if Drax's pretty suave, so let's see what happens, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's it's a lot of characters, and there's a lot of depth to them, and like I think it's important to do something fresh. So you take the things that you're used to, the tropes that you love, and we mash them up and sort of twist and subvert them as best we can, you know.
Mm-hmm. And so, just I don't know, if you had to use like some type of like, how difficult will like the Castlevania like parts, will the Metroidvania parts be? Will it be like a breeze for people who are familiar with this sort of game, or like, does it have the potential to like unexpectedly like grind someone into the dirt?
We're not fans of super punishing games. It's definitely not going to be a walk in the park, but it's not a Souls game. I guess I'll just leave it at that. I don't think that we're going to be the most punishing of games, but it's going to be fun and challenging.
Yeah, I think that this is another opportunity where I'm looking forward to the Kickstarter, because we learn a lot about the game that we're building based on the reactions. And surprisingly, the difficulty thing has come up a few times. And we are not a Souls-like game at all. At least that's not the plan. But there's a lot you can do to make things more difficult and more decisive and meaningful in terms of the choices you're making and that kind of thing. So if there's enough demand for it, I think that's the kind of thing we would put in as a stretch goal. And
right, or like a mode.
Yeah, but for us, it's more about, I don't look at Symphony as particularly difficult. I don't look at Bloodstained as particularly difficult. Hollow Knight's pretty tough, and Dead Cells is tough, but in a sort of more addictive way. Like, obviously, it's about that loop. And so, yeah, I'm open to the idea, but it's not our job is not currently. Our goal is not to hurl death at the player.
Okay. And just to close things out, without wishing to give like any like big juicy bits away, like what is like one like what is one specific thing that you are looking forward to like the gaming public experiencing once they're able to start playing?
Okay, I want to see cosplay. We designed all of these sexy characters with cosplay in mind. Every single outfit I would look at on any of the characters being like, are people going to want to create this? Like, are people gonna want to do this makeup? Are people going to want to, buy Ilessa wigs? And I really just am so inspired by cosplay. I love cosplay, especially interesting takes on characters. I'm dying to see people do Grimm. I'm dying. I just honestly, like, PAX could not come soon enough, as long as it's normal.
Yeah, we have a lot. So I think that one of the things that we keep talking about, and I think the way we're not going to pitch it this way, but I think the way we're going to be messaging it a bit, because again, it's a mashup, is WTF bosses, DTF monsters. And like, we've got
I love that always gets a laugh.
Yeah, so because I mean, a lot of our boss fight, they're again very much inspired by the genre and how over the top the genre can be. And so, for example, one of the things we're going to be revealing in our Kickstarter is we have a boss monster called the Giant Spaghetti Monster, who, yeah, I'm sure you can imagine. So, but it's very much inspired by the Legion boss from the Castlevania games, which is that giant ball of zombies. Instead, we have a giant ball of spaghetti that drops meatballs, and you fight.
Most terrifying.
Yeah, and you fight it in front of the meatball garden, which is inspired by the Olive Garden.
Yeah.
You look at so yeah, it's like there's so many things that just like boom, boom, boom. It's very memeable. I hope anyway. Like, I think that we just mashing up so many different ideas that there's gotta be some stuff that people latch onto, and that's what I'm excited about, to see what pieces resonate. There's sort of what ridiculous, absurd
Yeah, it's funny to see so we've been revealing a fair amount of content for Romancelvania, and it's so interesting to see what takes off. PSL, our pumpkin witch, when we first revealed her, we got a lot of like, whoa, like kind of shocking, what is the deal here? And we got a lot of like thirsty comments. And yesterday we revealed this very sort of almost tender and very romantic shot of one of the custom dates, and our Instagram like blew up because that one was more like romantic and touching. So there are some people who are, it's resonating on the thirst level, and other people are like, oh my god, I can't wait for these characters to fall in love. So it's really interesting what the diverse reactions we're getting.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And with that, we can bring this particular episode of the Pumpkin Copter Cast to a close. I would like to thank Bill and Amanda Gardner of the Deep End Games for joining me and talking about this game full of thirsty monsters.
It was an honor and a privilege.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. It's always fun, and I cannot wait for that Mario episode.
Yes, you're here for it.
So yeah, thank you so much.
Yep. And if anyone listening at home has enjoyed this, just remember to like and subscribe, do all that good stuff, so that maybe some point before I die of old age, I can have triple or even quadruple digits of subscribers.
There you go.
Once the Kickstarter for Romancelvania launches and you give them some money, if you want to give me some money, if you have any left over, you can go to patreon.com/thepumpkincoptercast, and for as little as $1 a month, you'll be able to submit questions for me to use in future interviews. And yeah, like I said, Romancelvania by the Deep End Games. Their Kickstarter's gonna be launching soon, so keep your eye on that. And, as this has been the Pumpkin Copter Cast, and as, I am now obligated to say at the end of every show, have a gourd day, everyone.